So we've completed our functional flexibility, which is one part of prepare. And remember, prepare is to get you ready for either training, practicing, or competing. So now we're moving into perform. It's time to actually do the work. So before we get into the movements, just a quick recap of some of the benefits that we get in functional strength and power. Well, because that plate moves up and down, side to side, front and back, rapidly, and we get that rapid reflex response, we know that we've got more muscles doing more things more often, fact. So that means we produce more force. Well, if we produce more force, that's an increase in strength. But because we do it so explosively, 30 times a second, 930 seconds, by definition, that's power. So research shows power goes up significantly. But because we're doing such a high volume of work, it improves our endurance. So it's strength, it's power, it's endurance. It also allows the different tissues in our body to develop specific metabolic qualities, which is phenomenal. It's one thing to develop this part of our metabolic system, but we've got that peripheral system too. So they're the benefits we're going to get. Now you're looking at your guidelines. There's actually a lot of guidelines around strength training, but in Discover, these are the most important ones. If you want to learn more, our one-day certification and specialized workshops really jump down that rabbit hole. But for today, core integration is going to be 1 to 3 movements. It's going to be 30 to 40 hertz. Low to high amplitude. It's going to be 30 to 60 seconds, 1 to 3 sets. It's really simple. You start at lower volume, lower intensity, and then you progress. Remember those intensity dials? When your client's just getting used and adapting to vibration, or in yourself, you don't want to go high frequency and high amplitude. In fact, you want to start at the low end and build up, just like traditional strength training guidelines. When it comes to strength and power, now we're talking about 4 to 6 fundamental movements, 30 to 40, low to high amplitude, 30 to 60 seconds, 1 to 5 sets. It ultimately comes down to what you're training for. If I'm training for endurance versus maximum strength, then obviously those variables change. But what you will notice is we don't go higher than 40 in these 2 training components. All right, it's time to move. Laura's going to join us and we're going to start with some core integration. Okay, now there are infinite ways we can train the core on the power plate. And our movement system, which we teach in our certification, shows you the key ingredients to do that. But for today, to start with 2 movements that every coach tends to use, most members are used to. We'll get our prone plank and our supine bridges. So Laura's going to start with our base prone plank position. We're going to go hands and feet. Now, the first thing we're going to do is have Laura in a nice, strong, stable position so that we tell her to push that plate away. And we want to see from heel to toe or head to heel, strong and still. A nice, strong line going all the way through that body. Can she hold this position and be stable against the vibration? Obviously, she's doing a phenomenal job. Now we want to add some motion to stimulate that core slightly differently. And this time we're going to use the pelvis. I'm going to have Laura drive it forward and back. Beautiful. And while she's doing it, you'll see she's still pushing that plate. The shoulders are stable, head to heel, strong and still. Now we're going to drive it side to side. Very different response in the core. You can see that clearly. And finally, we know by now that that body has got to rotate. That's our powerhouse. So we're going to use our knees. Beautiful. Now, this is key. The reason Laura's doing this so perfectly is by using the knee to create rotation in the core, it protects that low back. If she keeps those knees locked and just tries to rotate from the waist, typically, you'll see that low back get stressed. And rest. Great job, mate. Okay. And one more progression for you, one that we love, is obviously our arms and legs are typically moving in life. This one we're going to use a knee driver. We're going to use our knees to get that core reaction we want. And we're going to go forward and back, side to side, and rotate. Laura's going to do 3 of each. Just start in that sagittal plane, Laura. Beautiful. You can see the body just responds naturally. She's still locked and loaded, but she's getting great motion. Now she's going into that frontal plane, side to side. The knees coming to the side of the body. And finally, she's going to drive it to the opposite side, which now creates, you can see, that lovely rotation through the entire chain, not just the low back. Okay, so there's some great basic progressions for core integration, prone plank. Okay, next up is our supine bridge. So we're really going to be working on that posterior chain, that butt, and those hamstrings. Laura's going to start in a nice supine position, completely supported on the floor. And she's going to keep her feet down those train tracks. And when I say go, which is going to be a clap of the hand, she's just going to drive her belt buckle to the sky. Ready, Laura?
Yep.
Beautiful. Now, the range of motion here should be self-selected by the client. Everybody's built differently. But what you're looking for is laces snapped, stable through that trunk and that pelvis. And relax there, Laura. Once they've mastered that, it's time for us to add a little bit of motion. And the way we're going to do that is by driving that pelvis forward and backwards to start. Ready, Laura? Let's go up. Now she's stable. Let's start driving that pelvis side to side. This is a very different demand, especially on those hammies. Okay, and obviously we can now go up and down, so she can drive that pelvis up and down. Beautiful. Again, you're looking for that rhythm, that quality, that control. Are the laces snapped? And relax. Now, one thing we want to bring out here is the position, whether they should be on the floor or whether they should be on a power plate cushion. Step box if that's what you got. When you raise the person up, it completely changes the tension on the cervical spine. So let's have a look at Laura here. If she goes as high as she can, her cervical spine is really flexed. Now, for her, that may be no problem, but for many people, that's uncomfortable and too much. If that's the case, and rest there, Laura, we're going to raise her body up on a step box or a power plate cushion to take that out of the equation. Okay, one more progression. We've done our hold. We've done dynamic, forward and back, side to side. How do we create that rotation that we really need in that glute and that hamstring and through the spine? We're going to go to single leg with an opposite arm hold. So Laura comes up, flexes that hip and knee, holds it with the opposite arm. As she holds it here, gravity wants to rotate her and pull her down. Now as she goes dynamically, even more so. Beautiful. That, I can tell you now, that left butt and that left hamstring are on fire right now, especially when you turn the plate on. So this is our third progression for the supine bridge series.